The EFF now says AfriForum's attempt to prosecute its leader, Julius Malema, is a nonsensical distraction. The party says the move is aimed at deflecting attention away from the debate around land expropriation without a compensation. AfriForum plans to seek a private prosecution order against Malema on charges related to a 2009 government tender. To discuss this, we're joined by EFF Chairperson, Advocate Dali Mpofu. Good evening, Advocate.
Good evening, Vuyo.
Why is it a problem now?
Why is what a problem?
The AfriForum saying Julius should be prosecuted.
By who?
By Gerinel.
Yeah, so how can you equate that to a proper prosecution by the duly authorized prosecuting authority of the country? This is a nonsensical publicity stunt which has no legal basis. It's just a political tantrum that they're throwing because they're worried about our stance on land expropriation. It's very unfortunate what they're doing because they will not be able to deal with it if we confront them directly. I mean, they know that we're still in a grieving process, and they come with a stunt, to confuse the unsuspecting public. There's no basis on which a private prosecution can be brought by Gerinel or Kalikril or any of their racist lot. A private prosecution can only be brought in terms of Section 7 of the Criminal Procedures Act, in terms of which certain categories of people are entitled to bring such a prosecution. And one of the criteria is that there must be a substantial interest and peculiar interest on the part of the person bringing that prosecution.
Which they don't have.
Which they don't have. And the cases are very clear that we're not talking about a general interest like you and I, all South Africans would have. You'd have to be a victim, to put it simplistically. And then secondly, you must have a non-prosecution certificate called a nolle prosecution certificate issued by the NPA. None of those criteria are met in this case, so this is really nothing but a publicity stunt. And I was on a radio interview with Kalikril, and he confessed there that all they are doing is to try to put public pressure on the NPA. So in other words, they've lied to the public. They don't really intend to do a public prosecution, but they're hoping to put pressure on the NPA. So it's a very stupid way of doing so, because if they were aggrieved by the decision or non-decision of the NPA, then they simply have to take the NPA to court to challenge it for whatever they think it is failing to do.
What, though, do you think of the NPA's own, shall we say, delays in actually taking a decision on this matter? Is that good or bad for Julius Malema?
No, it's bad. I mean, this is what infuriated the judge, if you remember, in 2015, because the delay in the first place was inexplicable. Every time they said Julius must come to court, he was there promptly at 8 o'clock and waiting. And waiting and waiting, and then they were postponing and postponing until the judge said this far and no further. But in law, if a charge is withdrawn, it's a different thing from being acquitted. So at any stage, the NPA, if it finds the evidence or whatever it is that was causing the delay is now fixed, it can reinstitute the charges, and we will have no problem with that. But you can't equate that to some silly nonsensical thing by Gerinel and Kalikril. I mean, Kalikril, I don't know what his credentials are, but at least Gerinel, who was a prosecutor, should know better that the law is dead against him on this, and so it's just a publicity stunt.
So now, but in the event it does go ahead, I'm saying it will, I mean, you would know that better than I would. What would you do in the event it was to proceed?
Well, there's a legal and a political side to this. On the legal side, it's what I've explained. I mean, we would obviously deal with it that way. Politically, the This thing is really, as we say, it's about the hurt that they are feeling about the land issue. So maybe we can assist them and say, look, let's find a forum where we can talk about this land thing. Because I think it's an opportunity to appeal to our white compatriots, to say, look, this question of the land is not going to go away. Maybe we need to sit around the table, find practical solutions within the law. That's what we're trying to do in Parliament. Within the Constitution, within the law, peacefully, let us resolve this issue so that we can once and for all deal with the inequalities that afflict our country. This kind of escapism and trying to deflate the issue is not going to go. The issue is here. And we are going to get our land back, and that is what needs to be done. So that's the one side of it. The other side, well, if they want to give us an opportunity to have EFF rallies wherever they're going to convene this kangaroo court of theirs, well, so be it.
But how much of the land issue is because of the ANC not having done the best that it could have done in the past 20-odd years?
All of it is because of that. All of it. Because, you know, everyone knows, our struggle was always about the land. When the ANC itself was formed in 1912, it was not for voting, it was for the return of the land. And therefore, to neglect that central issue, firstly to neglect it in CODESA and have the compromise was one thing which one can lament. But maybe the conditions there required a compromise or whatever. But to not do it for 25 years is criminal, completely criminal. Because you know, it's not, as I say, this is not an issue that's going to go away. There are only two ways of doing it, either peacefully within the framework of the law, or there's going to be a bloodbath and chaos, and nobody wants that. And to think that you're going to have something called a willing buyer, willing seller, is nonsensical, because what that means is that the people who have the wealth would be the ones in any event who would buy the land. So it will be a merry-go-round, a political merry-go-round that nobody needed. So insofar as now it seems that the ANC has moved on that and voted with the EFF on the question of land, our concern is that they are not genuine. If they are genuinely want to address this issue, but you hear the noises already, they are saying, oh, it looks like we can resolve this thing without changing the Constitution. That's a dangerous way to do it. That's why I'm saying the appeal I'm making is not just to white South Africans, it's also to them, to say, let us confront this issue, let's deal with it, put it behind us, deal with our demons of the past, and leave black and white, share the land, because that's all that's being asked for. Nobody is talking about land grabs and all these tactics that are used. Let's share the land equitably. Nobody is going to be driven to the sea. Let's put legislation in place. Let's have a timetable and deal with this issue once and for all. It's not going to go away. It's been with us for more than 360 years, and it has to be addressed. And let's just be mature about it.
Well, with that history then, do you not accept that perhaps, or would you not accept that perhaps a lot of the antagonism that you are getting as people who have decided to champion this issue is the anger that ought to have been directed at the ANC and not so much on you, but you are now you now have to take or shoulder the responsibility because you are arguing for this issue to be addressed and addressed urgently?
No, that is very true, Vuyo, and all sorts of lame excuses have been given. I mean, you heard about it. At first they said, no, if we even talk about the land, investors are going to run away. Investors have not run away. Where are they going to run to? I mean, those investors will run to China, according to them. China, the land is owned by the state in China. So it's not true that that will drive investors. In fact, any sane investor, once this issue is resolved once and for all, we should run to this country, because this country has got so much potential with minerals, with so much land, and with all the wherewithal to make it, to turn the situation around in terms of inequality. So you're quite right. if anyone should be angry, well, we are angry at the ANC's ineptitude, which is why we have put the pressure politically and otherwise for this. And we're happy that they're moving one way or the other. Whether it is for opportunistic reasons because they want to catch votes for next year, but the reality of the situation is that once you've opened the lid, you can't put it back. The issue is now on the table nationally. It has to be addressed one way or the other.